Yes, Your
Yes.
Honor.
Okay. All right. With all that said, Mr. Osman, I'll let you begin by presenting your testimony first, sir.
Okay, Your Honor. I don't know where to start here. I guess I'm just gonna kind of start at the top here, the best that I can, to try to explain. The defendant here has filed a protective order against me before we have got here today. I don't feel I was allowed to explain my innocence during that hearing. I believe it was fraudulently obtained and used by her to obtain an unfair tactical advantage. No harm or unsafe situation ever occurred. She wrote it in her statement. She was in fear for her life from me, and I believe that is a lie. And because of her slandering my name without merit, her PFA was granted. Nothing exists as proof or evidence that she has ever been harmed in any way. I was unjustly removed from my home that I clearly own as stated on the deed because of her fraudulent accusations. She was able to weaponize the system against me. Her fraudulent case has been already decided much quicker than we have got here today, kind of unfairly because of her meritless accusations. She's cost me my home and a way to make a living for myself. I believe this was done to ruin my career. She should be held liable for the damages and lost wages that this has caused me. She should be held responsible for her lies and damages she's called that she's caused, and she filed the restraining order in retaliation to being evicted from the residence. She has known for over 2.5 years that I no longer wanted her living there. She refused to leave after being served with eviction papers. She has no right to the property as her name is not on the deed or any lease. Her claim of common law marriage is not valid. We were never married. No marriage license exists. I nor her never intended to be married and never presented ourselves as married. I have several witnesses that know this is true. I have never wore a ring and I've never presented her as my wife. And I believe that she has, you know, obtained this unfair advantage. She's also stolen money from my accounts with various apps without my permission. I believe I should be placed in sole control of the property, and her previous restraining order should be rescinded due to the false accusation.
All right. Thank you. Ms. Munn, what's your position on all of this, ma'am?
Well, Your Honor, that's
me
quite interesting.
before I go forward, forgive me. I didn't know if you had any questions you wanted to ask Mr. Osmet before giving your side of the case.
No, no. I understand there's been some things not told correctly. And so I am here. I'll kind of set the story straight, I guess.
Well, give me your perspective.
So, the last thing he said to me, he threatened my life whenever he left the house with his girlfriend. And I filed the PFA directly after that. Because I was in fear for my life. The last person that threatened my life stabbed me 16 times. So I do worry about that. He's pushed me down before. We've had altercations, but I never called the cops or anything like that. But this time when he threatened my life, I just felt it was a bit more serious. So I put the PFA on him. The PFA grants the plaintiff possession of the residence of how, or let's see, grants possession of the residence to the household or residence to the household to the plaintiff, excluding the defendant, and restrains the defendant from entering or remaining in the residence. And I was unable to send in court document, or I'm sorry, yeah, the PFA or the divorce papers because the day after court last time, he maliciously turned the electricity off on me and my son on the coldest day of the year. So I had to come up with a bunch of money to get the electricity turned back on because it was originally in my name, and then he took it out and put it in his name, and it had been in his name for about 3 months, and then he took it back out of his name to try to leave me with no way to turn it back on. But I was able to get the electricity back on that day, so I apologize I wasn't able to send anything over. It took literally every last penny I had to get it back on. The PFA, that was not, I did not do any of this out of retaliation for anything. I'm just simply standing my ground, and I'm not taking his abuse anymore. And so that's why there's all these accusations flying over my head, which I expected. We have court for the PFA. See, he's in contempt of court right now. And we have court February 8th, I believe, because he missed the last court hearing. And then, of course, they're still waiting to serve him papers on the divorce.
Okay. And are the things you've explained happening in Butler County?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that, did you have anything that you wanted to bring in from your witness, Ms. Munn?
Yeah, I have a witness because throughout our history together, we've been together 16 years. Technically, and we have introduced ourselves as husband and wife. He actually did have a ring on when we first, a little bit after we first got together, but to be honest, I wouldn't consider us married at that point, but he did wear a ring until I asked for it back when we broke up the first time. And we were apart for about 3 months and then got back together. But my witness here, she's seen us in Missouri about 12 years ago, I want to say, or 13 years ago. When we lived in Missouri, and also here in Butler County, and that we have presented ourselves as a husband and wife, and we've called each other husband and wife. And Lori's the one who has seen that happen. As long as Justin's friends have seen that. When we first went to Tennessee to meet his family, he introduced me as his wife, but I understand none of his friends are gonna, testify on my behalf. They'll testify for him, so I don't expect any of that.
Go ahead, Ms. Munn.
All right, Lori, whenever you visited us in Missouri and also came to visit in Andover, did we represent ourselves as a married couple, or would you have thought we were a married couple at that time?
Yes.
Have I ever spoke to you and called him my husband, or has Justin ever called me his wife?
Yes.
About how long do you think between the time that you know of till now that we had a relationship?
From my knowledge, it's been since you were in that I can go back to when I met Justin back in when you lived in Missouri. So from the time you were in Missouri till the time you've been in Butler County.
Okay. So a minimum of like 12, 13 years.
I mean, that's what I've known.
Sure.
I mean, I knew of you guys living in Rolla together too, but I didn't meet him until Missouri.
Right. And we lived in Rolla before Missouri. Well, was it before or after? I can't remember.
Both.
You're right. Well, that's really all I needed on your part, just to hear the third party, witness that we have called each other husband and wife, and we have lived as a married couple. And we bought the house 3 years ago. And were we together whenever we bought the house?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And then I guess that's all my questions for now.
All right. Mr. Ozmet, do you have any questions for Miss Deering?
I don't have any. No, Your Honor, I don't have any questions for
Yes,
Your
sir.
Honor. Is there any way I can call anyone?
Well, do you have someone that's available?
Yes, sir, I do.
I don't see anybody else on our meeting. Are they calling in right now?
Well, they're here with me now.
Oh, okay. Who is here with you? What's the person's name?
This would be my dad, Dwight Ozment.
All right. Go ahead, Mr. Osment. You can ask questions of your father.
Oh, all right. I guess, Dad, I just want to ask you, have you ever known in the entire time of me and her knowing each other, have we ever presented ourselves as married?
No,
Okay. And have I ever referred to her as my wife in any way or ever presented her as my wife in any way?
no, sir.
Okay. And um I have one other person I'd like to call.
Okay, who's that?
That would be my girlfriend, Cynthia Blankenship.
All right. And Miss Blankenship, did you too raise your hand and swear or affirm to tell the truth?
Yes, sir, I did.
All right. Go ahead. You can ask questions of her, Mr. Osment.
Okay, Cynthia. Do you know of any time that I have ever presented this woman as my wife at any point that you have ever known me?
No,
Have I ever implied that I was married to her or that I ever intended to marry her?
no,
That's all, Your Honor.
All right. Miss Munn, do you have any questions either for Dwight Osment or Miss Blankenship?
No, they know what's true and what's not. I'm okay.
All right. Well, give me a little bit to review the file. And then, like I said, if either of you have closing statements when we return, we can hear those and then I'll make a decision from there. Thank you. Okay. Sorry about that. I had a computer issue on my end. In any event, I think both of you had told your sides of the story very ably. And it seems that there are a lot of moving parts. It seems that, there are claims of a threat and an outright avowal that no such thing ever happened. And there's accusations of use of the legal system to attain tactical or unfair tactical advantage. But I don't think this court has to or should address issues concerning the marriage or any protection issues, because I think that this single question of the eviction is, at least at this snapshot in time, resolvable through the prism of just the document which speaks to that issue. Mr. Osment referenced the deed that he had submitted to the court, explaining that from his perspective, that would have shown sole ownership and that at that point, the eviction should be allowed to go forward. I think that, and I believe I had pointed this out at the time of our last hearing, that the deed in question has a meets and bounds description, but it also has a mailing address. And the mailing address is, and since the petitioner is relying on the deed as sort of being the cornerstone document of the presentation, and in as much as it does have that discrepancy in it, I'm going to deny the petition for eviction at this time. That doesn't mean, Mr. Osment, that you might not refile that at a later point, that there might be something to resolve any ambiguity, at least that this court finds in the document. But at this time and under those circumstances, the court is denying the motion.
Thank you, Judge.
And there's nothing to follow. Is there anything else I can say?
At this point, not in the context of this case, that doesn't preclude your filing of other pleadings in before this court or potentially in the other matters that are pending here in Butler County. But at least with respect to this question at this time, those are indeed my findings.
Okay. So I just need to prove that it's a typo on the document and it should say west instead of east.
Well, I don't mean to tell you how to run your case. I'm just noting that there is that discrepancy in the document. And I believe I had noted that at the time of our last hearing as well. And so that's the rationale for my finding.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Oh, son of a bitch.
You should probably mute before you curse me.
Thank you for your time, Judge. I appreciate you.
Thank you.